Hello everyone. Go ahead and open your books to page 183. We're in lesson 12.3 titled Standard Form. We're going to write the equation of a line in standard form, and then we're going to use standard form of a linear equation in order to solve problems. A linear equation can be written in the form ax plus by equals c, where a, b, and c are constants, they're numbers, and a and b are not both 0. A and b are not both 0. Another rule is that a must be greater than or equal to 0. So in the My Notes section of your book, you might want to write down that a cannot be negative, or a is positive. Also, a, b, and c are integers. Okay, that means whole numbers. So we cannot have fractions or decimals. And then also their greatest common factor is 1. So these are just some rules for standard form. It's ax plus by equals c. A has to be positive. We can't have fractions or decimals. All right, let's skip over to question 4. Currently, this is in standard form. Ax plus by equals c. A is our 3, b is 2, and c is 8. And we're going to take this question and we're going to convert it to slope-intercept form, which is y equals mx plus b. So we want to get this 2y by itself. We want to isolate it. We want to solve for y. So what that means is we're going to subtract 3x from both sides. So 2y equals, and I'm going to write my negative 3x first because my formula says to write mx first. Then my plus 8 at the end. But my y is not completely alone yet. There's a 2 out in front. There's a coefficient of 2. They're being multiplied. So the opposite is to divide by 2. So y equals negative 3/2. That doesn't simplify or reduce, so I'm going to leave it. Plus 8 divided by 2 is 4. Now, this is slope-intercept form, so it's okay that I have fractions. This fraction here is my slope. Remember, it's a set of directions. It's my rise over run. And then 4 is my y-intercept. All right, question 5. This is point slope form, and we need to convert it to standard form. So we're tying all of activity 12 together. So in order to convert it to standard form, the first thing that I'm going to do is to get rid of my parentheses. So we're going to distribute here. So y minus 7 equals 2 times x. 2 times 1 is 2. The next thing that I'm going to do is get my two constant terms together. So I see a negative 7 and a positive 2. Let's put them together. So I'm going to add 7 to both sides. Y equals 2x plus 9. Currently, this is slope-intercept form, but that's not standard form, so I'm not done yet. Standard form says that my x and my y are together on the same side away from my constant term. So I need to take this 2x, move it over here out in front of the y. Everyone see that? So let's subtract 2x. These cancel. So I have negative 2x plus y equals 9. And I wrote my 2x first because that's standard form. Ax plus by equals c. Now remember, we had rules. One of the rules was no fractions or decimals. I can check off that box, pass that rule. The next one was that a had to be positive. I fail that test. Look, we have a negative 2 out in front. That cannot happen. So we need to get rid of this negative, and we can do that in 2 ways. We can think about multiplying everything right now by a negative 1 to cancel it out. Or you could think about dividing everything by negative 1. Whatever is easiest for you. But really, all that does is it changes all of your signs. Okay? So a negative times a negative becomes a positive 2x. Negative 1 times y, or y divided by negative 1, equals 9 times negative 1, or 9 divided by negative 1 is a negative 9. And now this would be my final answer because a, this 2, this leading coefficient, is positive. I don't have any fractions. So 2x minus y equals negative 9 is our final answer here. All right. Questions 6 and 7. I really want you to pause the video and I want you to try to do these questions on your own. You're going to take question 6. It's in standard form and you're going to convert it to slope-intercept form. Question 7 is in slope-intercept form, and you're going to convert it to standard. So I want you to try your best. You can do it. Question 6. We need to get this 3y alone. So what I'm going to do is subtract 2x from both sides. Those cancel out. So I have 3y, equals, my mx term comes first, so negative 2x plus 18. My y still is not alone. There's a coefficient of 3 out in front. Those are being multiplied together. So the opposite, divide by 3. Y equals negative 2/3 x plus 18 divided by 3. What do we get? Your final answer here is 6. Now, is this slope-intercept form? Yes, your slope is a negative 2/3. Your y-intercept is 6. So this would be easy to graph. Question 7, we're going to work the opposite direction. And we could move the x first, or we could get rid of the fraction first. So it's totally up to you. But remember, a fraction is not allowed. So we need to eliminate it. How do we do that? Well, what's in the denominator? What's the bottom of our fraction here? 5. What's the opposite of dividing by 5? Multiplying by 5. So if I put parentheses around here, I need to multiply this entire equation by 5. Not just -6/5. I have to multiply the y and the -4 by 5. So I'm going to distribute the 5 to each term, to each part, in order to get rid of it. So 5 times y is 5y. Now, if I'm multiplying by 5 and dividing by 5, those cancel each other out. So we're just left with -6x. And then 5 times -4 is -20. Now, what do we have to do? What do we need to move? But has to be together on the same side. This guy has to move over here. So how do we move a -6x, or what's the opposite? We need to add it. And which one needs to be out front? Your ax or your by? So 6x plus 5y equals -20. Now, do we have any fractions? Nope, so we're good. Is a, which is 6, positive? Yes, so we're good. A here is 6, B is 5, C is -20. All right, we're going to skip question 8 and jump to a story problem in question 9. Standard form is really good for a story problem when you're buying two different things and you have a certain amount of money to spend. So we have Sushila, who is making a large batch of granola to sell at a school fundraiser. She needs to buy walnuts and almonds to make granola. Walnuts cost $3 per pound. Almonds cost $2 per pound. She has $30 to spend. Write an equation that represents the different amounts of walnuts, x. So I know that this $3 per pound is going with walnuts, which is x, and almonds are y, which is the $2. Okay? So it doesn't necessarily tell us if we're using point slope, slope intercept, or standard, but we're in lesson 12.3, which is titled standard form. So let's assume that we're using standard form because I don't know what a point is here and I don't know what my slope is here or my y-intercept. So we're going to use standard form. So what do you think my A value is? What's the first thing that we're buying? Walnuts, which costs what? $3. What variable do we use for walnuts? X. Plus, what else? Almonds, just $2. Which variable? Y. Equals. How much money do we have? $30. Now, we don't know how to graph in standard form. So I could convert this to slope-intercept form in order to graph, because we could plot the y-intercept and then we could use the slope to plot more points. But actually, the book says in question B to graph the x and the y intercepts on the coordinate plane below. So, the x-intercept occurs on the x-axis. Okay? Now, along this x-axis, you are not moving up and down on your y-axis at all. So this occurs when y equals 0. So what that means is we are going to plug in y equals 0 into our equation above, into that blue y up here. So if I take a 0 and put it in right here, this is gone. I'm currently covering it up with my hand, but you can't see it. What are we left with? We're left with this green 3x equals this red 30. So if y equals 0, I'm left with my ax equals c. My 3x equals 30. Well, how do I solve for x? What would my x value be? Divide by 3. Y equals 0. X equals 10. So this is my x-intercept on my x-axis. So you can go ahead and plot that. Go over 10, up 0. So we're buying 10 pounds of walnuts and 0 pounds of almonds. All right, let's switch it. You know that your y-intercept occurs on your y-axis. Here's your y-axis. And it occurs when x equals 0. We learned that in activity 6. Okay, so if x is 0, let's plug in a 0 here, which means this is gone. And I'm left with 2y equals 30. All right, I'm left with my y value because I want my y-intercept. So 2y equals 30. How do we solve for y? Divide both sides by 2. Those cancel. Y equals 15. Well, this kind of makes sense because remember the costs, right? Almonds cost $2 a pound. 2 times 15 gives me 30. So let's go up halfway between 14 and 16, and we're going to plot that y-intercept. And now what I want you to do is use a ruler or a straight edge in your pencil, and you're going to connect the two with a straight line. So I've drawn in my line, connecting my x-intercept to my y-intercept. So from 15 down to 10. And we will get more practice with these x and y intercepts later on. Question C. If Sushila buys 4 pounds of walnuts, look right here, pounds of walnuts is our x variable. So this means that x equals 4. How many pounds of almonds, remember that stands for y, can she buy? So let's use our equation from above, from question 9a. So 3x plus 2y equals 30. But instead of having an x here, we know x stands for walnuts. And how many pounds of walnuts is she buying? She's buying 4. So let's plug in 4. And I want you to pause the video and I want you to solve. You can do it. Solve for y. Subtract 12. Those cancel. 2y equals 18. Divide both sides by 2. Y equals 9. 9 what? 9 pounds of almonds. So she buys 4 pounds of walnuts, 9 pounds of almonds, and she spends all of her money. Question 10. Refer to the graph that we just made above in question 9b. What is our x-intercept? We graphed it. We found it. Our x-intercept was 10, 0. What does that represent? Well, remember, if she buys 10 pounds of walnuts, remember 10 times 3 is 30. She only has $30, so she spends all of her money. So that means she buys 0, that's what the 0 is for, pounds of almonds. She spent all of her money on walnuts. She's got no money left for walnuts. And we could say the other way around for our y-intercept. We could say she buys 15 pounds of almonds, because 15 times 2 is 30, so she spends all of her money on almonds. She can't buy any walnuts. Number 11, write an equation in standard form of the lines shown. It's really hard to look at a graph in no standard form right away. I can't figure out what my A is, or my B, or my C just by looking at the graph. But you can figure out what your y-intercept is right away from the graph. And you probably can figure out what your slope is as well from the graph, right? You know that your slope is your rise over run. So let's do slope-intercept form, y equals mx plus b, and then let's convert it. So I know my slope here is negative, and I'm going down how many? Down 5 over 4. That doesn't reduce or simplify, so I'm going to leave it as negative 5 over 4. My b value, or my y-intercept, is up at a positive 6. So y equals negative 5 over 4x plus 6. Perfect. Now let's convert. We know how to do that. We did it a few times already today. But wait a second, standard form cannot have a fraction. So let's eliminate or get rid of our fraction first. So what that means is we need to get rid of this denominator. What's in our denominator? What's in the bottom of our fraction here? It's 4. The opposite of dividing by 4 is to multiply by 4. I need to multiply every term, every part by 4. 4 times y. Multiplying by 4 and dividing by 4, these cancel out. And you're left with your numerator, negative 5, and then the x. Okay, now 4 times 6 is 24. Is this standard form yet? No, I still need to take this x term and move it over here with the y, and it needs to be out in front. How do we do that? The The opposite of minus 5x would be to add 5x. Those cancel. So 5x plus 4y equals 24. I have no fractions, and this a term right here is positive, so I pass the rules. This is in standard form, and I'm done. Question 12. We're going to find which function from this equation and the table and the graph have the greatest, the largest slope. Okay, so I want you to pause the video and I want you to find the slope. So calculate the slope from this graph. Count the rise over run. You can do it. Find the slope from the table using the slope formula. Doesn't matter which two that you use. You can do it. Convert this to slope-intercept form. You can do it. I believe in you. So if I'm looking at the equation, I've taken this equation and then I've converted it to slope-intercept form. Subtracted 2x and I've divided by negative 5. So my slope here, if you've solved this correctly, is 2/5. Okay, 2 divided by 5. Up 2 over 5. Up 2 over 5. Which is 0.4. Usually we don't talk about slope as a decimal, but that's a fraction, okay? Now, if we look at our graph here, I'm going up 2 spaces, I'm rising 2, and I'm running 1. So my slope here is 2. So out of the equation in the graph, which one's bigger? Which one's larger? Well, the graph currently. So the equation is out of the picture here. Okay. Now let's go to the table. I picked 0, 10, and 1, 13 as my points to use because they don't have any negatives and they're really easy numbers for me to work with. From 10 to 13, I'm going up 3. From 0 to 1, I'm going up 1 number. So everyone see that? Okay, you could have used the slope formula. And remember, your change in y's go on top in the numerator. Your change in x is in the denominator. So these are going up by 3's. These are going up by 1's. 3 divided by 1 is 3. So which one has the greatest slope? The graph is 2. The table is 3. Which one's bigger? The table. Because the slope is 3. 3 is greater than 2, which is greater than 2/5.